Next up, we have Judith. Judy is Director of the National Center for Pavement Preservation.
This was an effort done by the PPEEG, Pavement Preservation Expert Task Group. We did brainstorming and arrived at a group of ideas of what made a really good pavement preservation program. Then we put out a survey, and actually I'll say I put out a survey because Federal Highway Administration can't put out surveys, but I can. So I put out a survey. Nobody told me I couldn't, so I did. And we got the results, and so this is to show you. It turned out our goal was to come up with a top 10 list of what would make a world-class pavement preservation program. Well, we got 11, so sue me. What I'm hoping you'll do is, as you listen to this presentation and you hear these 11 different things, all of which are important to a pavement preservation program, you notice, maybe even write down, a couple of them that you think your agency could improve on. That's all. It's not a test. It isn't like a magazine survey where you have to answer all the questions and then rate yourself. No. It's not that kind of test, but hopefully it will give you a way to broach the subject of what could we do better to improve our program. So here they are. Top answer, and I'm not David Letterman, so I'm not working from the lowest to the highest. This is the top priority from the national survey: consistent recurring funding. Number one, every agency felt like that was the thing. It helped their contractors know they had a dependable body of work coming, and it helped the agency being able to plan forward. Our agency has support from all levels within the agency. Oh yeah, our program. Do your maintenance guys who are out there doing the crack sealing, do they get why it's important? Does your chief engineer understand why these practices are important? Do you get it? So each of us has a responsibility. It's not any one person's job, but it has to be everywhere in the organization. I heard somebody say today, mention that he had lost his champion in their programming area. Having a champion is really, really important, and that is the person who actually, when they try to cut the funds, stands up and says, that is a bad idea. Now that takes courage, because usually the person who's making that decision to cut the funds is several notches up the food chain from the champion. But that is what the champion does. And if the program suffers a setback, they come back, gather the troops, refocus, and move on. So having a champion, very important. How many agencies who are here has what they would think of as a champion for their preservation program? Okay, that's an underwhelming 2. So put that on your list of things where you could do some improving. Some of you may just be shy and not want to admit that you are in fact that champion. Project selection and execution is based on data. We're all in a world now of data-driven decision-making. They want you to have a process that you use to screen your data so that the selections in one district are somehow related to selections, or at least candidates from another district. So a data-driven approach. And notice there, they want you to have a process. So these can be decision matrices, it can be tables, it could be decision trees in your pavement management system. There's lots of tools there, but you need to have some sort of structured program. Your program includes a variety of treatments. Okay, you're not depending on just mill and fill. You're not just depending on thin lays, but you have some microsurfacing, some thin lays, some ultra thin, some chip seals, depending on the particular road and the particular application. You have a mix of fixes. This is one where I think many agencies struggle. Knowledgeable agency and contractor personnel on every project. That is a goal. That is a real struggle, though. My home agency in North Carolina, the legislature one day decided we will no longer do chip seals with in-house forces. All of it went to contract essentially overnight. And the contractors didn't know what they were doing. And our inspectors were guys who had been inspecting construction of new pavement on new locations. So they could run a heck of a slump test. They could do air voids. They could do densities, but they did not know how to inspect a chip seal. And so that program has really struggled trying to make sure that knowledgeable agency and contractor personnel for every project. Use your pavement management system to track distresses, identify current and future preservation needs, and so forth. This isn't turning over to your pavement management system all engineering judgment, but it is using your pavement management system to come up with that list of potential sites, potential candidates that meet good preservation criteria. Not every system needs a super high quality, ultra maxed out pavement management system. Some people can do it very well with an access database for a smaller network, but use the tools that you have and use those to drive your decision making. Pavement preservation is part of your asset management plan, and you know that. You should know if pavement preservation is part of the plans. Those asset management plans require a 10-year financial plan. I would love to see the state who can achieve that 10-year financial plan without having preservation in their program. I can't imagine it because of the expense. Number 9, stakeholders are educated and informed on the benefits of the preservation program. This is always a challenge. It's always out there. And again, I will reiterate what I said earlier. We have many stakeholders. Our stakeholders include legislators, they include executives within our agencies, they include the public, and they include the media. So getting all of those stakeholders educated and in line on the program is really difficult. You have well-documented material specifications, testing programs, and approval process. This is what Jim was just alluding to. Some things we're really strong at. We have, I think, for many things, pretty good material specifications, but I think on the written out, well-defined procedures for acceptance and so forth, we have a ways to go. When you have those written guidelines, though, it reduces risk for the contractor who's trying to bid your job. They know what the expectation is, and they know the level at which they need to perform. So that is an important thing in reducing contractor risk. Finally, number 11, I hope I'm getting credit for having sped this right along. You track the performance of your preservation treatments and use that information to modify your preservation plans. You have a 10-year asset management plan. I hope, if like someone reported this morning that they're only getting 4 years out of some of their treatments, they need to be modifying those plans to reflect that 4-year issue. That's a significant issue. But on the slide, I've highlighted another scenario. If I apply a chip seal to a road that's in good condition, it'll last 8 years, but if I take that same money and reassign it to a road that's in poor condition, it's only going to last 4 years. What are you going to do? So I guess now to sum up, how did your program come out looking? My hope is that you aren't so depressed that you go home and give up, but that instead you find 2 or 3 things that you say, we could do better at this, and let's tackle them. Because these are all small enough items that a small group can put together some of this information and really step up your program with a minimal effort. If you need help, there are lots of tools. If you Google, I Google for everything. If you Google TSP2, you can click on the pavement preservation tab and you'll get all kinds of resources. There's technical information and meeting information, all kinds of things. If you need training, Neil had a very good slide on training that's available. You've heard a lot about training. ISSA with their web-based training on chip seals, slurry seals, and crack treatments. Are there any questions? Wow, I can now take a breath. Thank you.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.